What's it really like living full-time in a camper? Well, let's talk about it. Hold on one sec. Whose idea was this? Should have went to Arizona. Somebody stole my cover for the windshield. This is fun. Yeah, that 30 amp port doesn't work. I guess I need a bigger gas tank or an auxiliary gas tank or something, because that was concerning. I've been living in this trailer here for the last 3 to 5 months, and I've got to say it's been a fun time, but it's definitely come with some significant downsides. And so in this video, I want to talk about 10 of the biggest downsides that I've found with living full-time inside of a camper. My name is Matt Zeffi. I make videos about the outdoors, and I've been road tripping across the United States in this camper here after leaving my job in New York City earlier this year. But I wanted to also show that it comes with a lot of preparation, planning, and really just having expectations about what it's going to be like. Starting with number one, perhaps you're already thinking, where is this dude showering? And really, I swear I'm showering, no worries. But the point is, water supply is always a limited resource unless you're directly hooked up to a campground, which for the most part, I'm always boondocking. If I'm going to be camping, I like kind of being out as far as I can and being completely off the grid as much as possible. And I've been off the grid entirely for the last 1 to 2 months. And it was really the whole reason that I bought this camper in the first place was because it has tanks so that I can be off the grid. But with tanks comes monitoring, and I'm always worried about water supply. And maybe it doesn't matter to you, like depending where you are in the country, there might be plenty of water around. Maybe you're around a ton of gyms where you don't really necessarily need to use the camper water as much. And overall, just monitoring things in general tends to be that much more important when you're living in a camper, and it can be a little bit exhausting at times because I'm always trying to make sure that I have enough water to successfully complete a shower. And even those showers are kind of, I don't want to say bird baths, but they're not your at-home luxurious showers. They're turning the water on and off in between. Again, if you're at a campground with full hookups and that sort of thing, not off the grid and boondocking, then that's less of a problem. But overall, for van lifers who are not doing that, or campers or RVers who are off the grid, water is pretty much going to be a constant worry. Some might call it water anxiety. Also, washing dishes with limited water is very frustrating. You got to be very, very specific with it and when you turn on the faucet. And this camper has a 23-gallon freshwater tank. Obviously, a larger camper would have a larger tank, but then it comes with other sets of problems. Number two, the water's got to go somewhere, and that is to the black tank or your gray tank in general. Emptying those tanks is such a nuisance for the most part. That's why I almost prefer, right now I'm dry camping because it's so cold out still, getting down to the 20s consistently at night that I can't run all the plumbing inside. But emptying the tanks can be really frustrating. You have to make sure that you're planning around places that will have somewhere to empty your tank. Again, if you're staying at a campground with full hookups, then it's almost like you're at a home with direct connection to the sewer hookup and the water, so that's not really a concern. But if you're boondocking or off-grid entirely, as I've been, then you're always going to need a place to empty the tanks every week or 2 weeks, that sort of thing. And I don't know if you've seen the scene in RV where there's just a massive catastrophe. That's everybody's biggest fear. It's highly unlikely, especially when you know what you're doing, and it's a relatively easy process. It only takes like 10 to 15 minutes, a little bit longer if you're doing like full cleaning and everything. It also can be somewhat expensive in certain areas depending on where you are, but at the same time, if you're boondocking, that kind of offsets that fee. To be clear, this is like the one thing that everybody thinks of when it comes to RVs and campers, emptying the tanks. I assume because they've seen the Robin Williams movie RV. And it's kind of everybody's fear. Is it even worth it to have tanks on board and use the bathroom because you have to empty the tanks? And I would say it absolutely is still worth it. I would rather have a bathroom and shower and sink and have to empty the tanks than not have that. That's really why I got the camper in general. It's really just something you're gonna have to do every week or 2 weeks, depending on how much you're using the plumbing. And it's kind of one of those things that nobody shows on the internet, but it happens. Next, safety is one of the downsides about living in a camper, and you could offset this by, of course, traveling to mostly safe areas, and many outdoor community areas tend to be relatively safe. I mean, I don't know if you can notice, but there's nobody around, and in terms of safety, I don't really think that animals are the biggest concern. Perhaps bears if you're really like in Yellowstone or something, or in certain areas, and mountain lions could be kind of, those I would be kind of scared about mountain lions. But overall, animals are not the main issue. It's definitely more so humans that I would be more concerned about. And for the most part, if you're not camping around anybody, then It's like, what is there really to be afraid of? But overall, safety is one of those concerns. So just doing things to avoid any attention can be very helpful. Traveling to safe areas, not going to the same place more than once, not posting about where you are at any specific time if it really specifies where exactly you are online. Just something outside at night and it's just rummaging around in the bushes or something. I'm someone who, when I'm sleeping, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I jump up out of bed like a freaking ninja warrior. I don't know what it is. I'm ready to go to war if need be. It's always like a squirrel or raccoon. But overall, safety is one of those concerns when you're not living in a fully formed structure and a home on wheels. And it just goes back to what I was saying before, making sure that you're taking proper precautions and making sure that you're properly equipped to deal with any security issues if something were to come up. I will say many of the folks that do ask me about safety on the road live in places where their ice cream is locked up in the Walgreens, so I think I'm more concerned about your safety actually. Next, the installation on these campers and RVs and really everything, they are absolutely terrible. Some things say they're 4-season, and they just don't deliver on that, to be perfectly honest. This one's not a 4-season camper. I knew that going into it, and still I'm crazy enough to camp in the wintertime. I was also in Wyoming this winter as well, where it was below zero pretty consistently. And I have to say, these RVs and trailers just don't have great insulation, which means in the winter, it's really not going to keep it very warm in there. And also in the summer, it's not going to keep it very cool. As I was camping in Wyoming these past couple of weeks, where it was below zero, I was running that furnace and going through propane about 2 tanks every 4 days, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. That was about $60 up there, and overall it just felt wasteful. So that's why I ended up leaving Wyoming and coming down here. Not to mention the more windows you have as well, it's another area where air is going to get in and escape. But also in the wintertime, a lot of the humidity inside the camper tends to condense on the windows, which can pose multiple different issues, but especially like a mold problem if it starts condensing on the walls too, can really be an issue. So if you are camping in the winter, you want to make sure, even in the summer, I would just use a lot of dehumidifiers and those little bags as well. Also in that same line of thinking, the walls are incredibly thin, and because of that, everybody is going, I mean, I say everybody, there's nobody around, but if you're in a campground or if you're near other people, everyone's going to know your business, okay? So maybe be like a little chiller. I like to play the guitar in the camper sometimes, and I'm sure it sounds like a full-on concert out here. I mean, you could sneeze in there and somebody out here is gonna yell, bless you. Next, the extreme small space that is living in a camper. I mean, mine is really extreme. I'm living in a 96 square foot camper, and there are people with massive houses on wheels, but I think no matter what size camper you get, it's going to be more cramped than if you were to live in a home, unless it was like a New York City home, I guess. But that just means you have to be very, very intentional about the things that you have inside the camper, and also means that you want to pick things that have multiple uses. I don't have anything in there that's like I'm not using almost every single day. So for example, as my step stool, I've been using one of the jack stands, and I've also got a step on my Jeep that I use to sometimes get on top of the camper. So everything's just got multiple different uses. It also means you can't take your entire wardrobe for the most part if you're living in a camper. You know the whole 80-20 rule, you probably wear about 20% of the clothes that you have, and the rest of the 80% you wear maybe once a year or something at a wedding, I don't even know. For the most part, you can only have that 20% in the camper. And also in a tiny space, it seems to get messy so much easier, but at the same time, it's much easier to clean up because there's just less of an area to clean. And also any company that you have over, you want to make sure that you really enjoy that company because that relationship will be tested in a tight space. Next, mailing any sort of packages and mail in general is a bit more difficult when you're living in a camper. There are some drop-off points. There are companies that will organize this for you. There are UPS access points, there are FedEx access points as well. And also if you befriend a company or if you're passing by a friend's house, you can always ship things to them. For Amazon, there are Dropbox lockers that I was actually using in Salt Lake recently as well. But if you're in the middle of nowhere, you're in the middle of nowhere. Like friends or family want to ship you something or send you mail or invite you to their wedding, maybe send an email. Not to mention the fact that if you're really in the middle of nowhere and kind of need to ship something, the shipping times are going to take so long. When I'm really truly out there, I have to think like a week to 2 weeks in advance because it can get very slow. I've had situations where I've shipped something to an access point and I wasn't able to pick it up because I just had to leave to the next destination. Maybe that sounds kind of impulsive it is what it is. Next, this one is admittedly very superficial, but it is a thing, so I have to say it. And it's the fact that there are stereotypes around living in a camper or trailer or a van life sort of person in general. And, I don't care about what people think about this lifestyle. I'm having a good time, to be honest. And there are quite a few comments that I usually get on these sort of videos about that. You can kind of see them on other videos as well. But overwhelmingly, people are very positive about the whole entire lifestyle. But there is a stereotype. Some people just think it's weird. And you know what? Like, I get the stereotypes. Obviously, I don't agree with them. And I just think that the life I was living before was far more weird in that sense. Like, how is it normal to spend so much time commuting and doing this sort of thing and that sort of thing? But overall, there are stereotypes around this lifestyle, and that is one of the downsides, and I knew about it going into it, so it was to be expected. And honestly, I kind of just troll people now about it. It also can make like friendships and dating a little odd too, because you like make a friend or you go on a date and you're like, I'm kind of leaving town tomorrow, and it's not you, it's me. I'm just kidding, that doesn't happen, but it is sometimes difficult to explain. I have found myself saying, I'm on a very long road trip and I'm here today and I might not be here tomorrow. I'm going with the sun. Wherever it's 70 degrees, that's where you'll find me. At the end of the day, the people that get it. The people that don't. Next, this one is kind of tied to security, but more so security about the items that are inside your camper, maybe all your belongings. If you're taking everything with you and you're living in a camper, I assume you probably have all your belongings in there, whether it be electronics or cash or whatever, that sort of thing. I don't really have that much in there, but I do have camera gear and I end up taking everything with me. I almost never leave anything in the camper for that reason, but it is still really annoying to always have it in the back of your head that one day something could get stolen from the camper or could get broken into. And for the most part, I try and bring it with me as much as humanly possible. And if I'm going to like a restaurant, I will bring my backpack of camera gear and just plop it right beneath the table at a restaurant. It's like, yeah, I look a little crazy taking a massive backpack into a bar or restaurant, but at the same time, I would rather be the crazy person than be the person who just got their entire livelihood stolen from them. But then there's the whole thing about like maybe the trailer could even get stolen one day, and I really hope not. I always put a lock on the tow hitch on the front. If you've got things that are not replaceable, try and have them either not in the van and maybe in a safe lockbox somewhere with family or friends, or have it duplicated. For your files, that's a really important one. I've seen a lot of friends, filmmakers, and photographers get their files completely stolen, and that's not really replaceable. So make sure that those are backed up to the cloud. That's what I do. I have my entire laptop backed up to the cloud. Also, having insurance is very important if you're doing this lifestyle as well. But if you can avoid it, try not to leave your camper unattended. And if you do your best to do research on the areas that you're leaving it unattended in and making sure that there's not a lot of property or theft crime. Next, when you have a home on wheels, that means it's going to require pretty significant maintenance, and mechanical breakdowns can occur, or really just anything can break in general when you've got something that is vibrating as much as it does on the road, especially if you do like the level of off-roading that I've been doing with this camper and my Jeep, which means that you always feel like you're tending to something. I had the door hinge break on the way over here. I've got the furnace. It's now making a weird noise this week. It sounds like there's like a Honda Civic outside blasting dubstep every time I turn the furnace on, which it's cold, so I'm always turning the furnace on. So I'm gonna have to fix that one as well. It just seems like there's always something breaking down, and it can get really expensive. Also, the day before my flight home for Christmas this year, I had some maintenance come up on my Jeep, and that was another massive bill thrown out the door. But so many parts for both the car and the camper, if you have an RV, require pretty significant maintenance, especially the more miles that you drive. And if you're driving those on dirt roads too, add even more to that as well. And last but not least, it needs to be said, because it's one of the biggest questions that I get often, is don't you ever get lonely? And I want to include this one because it is one of the biggest downsides that I hear about living in a camper, van life, and RVing in general. And that is, if you're doing it alone, it can get really lonely. Even if you're doing it with someone, it can get lonely because you don't perhaps have an immediate community, or you don't have a consistent community because you might drive away the next week. Personally, I don't really get lonely. I think it's because I'm constantly doing something, and I talk to people all the time, whether I'm going out into parks or I don't know, wherever I am, I kind of talk to people, but it is a point that a lot of people make with the whole loneliness thing. And I'll probably make a video dedicated to this, but I would just say if you already find yourself being relatively lonely prior to living in a camper or something, this lifestyle can actually elevate that. Now, for the most part, you can do this lifestyle with somebody else. You can meet a lot of people on the road. There are also large pockets of communities, especially this time of year. I mean, it seems like all the nomads are kind of down in Arizona right now or Florida, and they have these massive communities. But it is one of the downsides to point out because it can be a thing relatively easily, especially if you don't keep yourself busy all the time. But honestly, that's sort of a thing even if you live alone or you're in a home. All that to say, look, there are a ton of downsides, even some that I haven't mentioned about living like this nomadic lifestyle, more specifically in a camper or trailer as well. But even despite that, there are also a ton of benefits, and I wouldn't be doing it if it weren't the case. And honestly, I've been having such a fun time. And also, if you want to hear more about the benefits, I made a video that you can click up here to check that out to really hear about some of the upsides about living this lifestyle. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other downsides that I missed in this video, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you. If you got anything out of this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new here, and hit the notification bell so you're alerted each time I post. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you out there on the road.